You're a man over 40, and you think you know what a woman my age wants from you. You've heard the word 1,000 times, whispered in locker rooms and echoed in magazines: security. It's a simple, transactional, and deeply cynical word. But I'm here to tell you it's the wrong one. The honest truth, the one we barely admit to ourselves, is that the word isn't security. The word is addiction. It's a profound, involuntary, and psychological pull toward something you possess that men my age simply cannot offer. And it's one of the most powerful forces in the modern dating world, a force you're not even aware you control, and one that most men your age accidentally sabotage. This addiction has nothing to do with the number in your bank account, but everything to do with the landscape of your past. It's a gravitational pull toward a specific kind of masculine energy that has become dangerously scarce. And understanding it is the difference between being seen as a compelling, magnetic figure and being dismissed as a cliché. This isn't about learning a new line or a clever trick. This is about recognizing the immense power you already hold. So I'm going to ask you to stay with me, because toward the end of this video, I will reveal the single most common mistake that shatters this entire dynamic. A mistake that turns a source of deep desire into a source of quiet pity, instantly breaking the spell. My promise to you is this: by the time this video ends, you will see your own age not as a liability to be compensated for, but as the very source of an almost irrational, addictive appeal. You are about to discover the hidden emotional curriculum that a mature man offers, a curriculum that a younger woman finds not just appealing, but deeply pacifying to her nervous system. We will move you from feeling uncertain or past your prime in a world that seems to worship youth, to feeling a quiet confidence in the unique power you embody. Because the truth is, you're not just a provider of resources. In a world of emotional chaos, you are the destination they have been unknowingly searching for. So for the next few minutes, I want you to set aside everything you've been told about age gap dynamics. Forget the cynical takes and the superficial advice. We are going to deconstruct the psychology of this attraction, piece by piece, so you can finally understand the hidden signals, avoid the common errors, and see why your life experience, your successes, your failures, and even your scars are your greatest assets. And before we go deeper, I'd love to feel the community here with me. Just take a second to write the city or state you're watching from in the comments. It's a small way to connect us all as we begin this journey together. The authority I speak with doesn't come from a textbook or a survey. It comes from being the I in the title. I'm 25. This isn't a theory, it's a confession. I am pulling back the curtain on the private, unspoken emotional truths of my generation, the conversations we have behind closed doors, the feelings we can't quite articulate to men our own age, and the profound sense of relief we feel when we encounter a man who operates on a different frequency. This is privileged information, and I'm sharing it with you not as a lesson, but as an intimate insight from the other side, because the confusion surrounding this topic serves no one, least of all you. So before we can even begin to talk about the pillars of this addiction, you first need to learn how to see them. Most men fail to recognize this powerful dynamic not because the signals are absent, but because they're looking for the wrong thing entirely. You've been trained to search for a single, loud, definitive sign, a clear yes, in a language that is spoken almost exclusively in whispers, patterns, and context. A woman's genuine interest is never a billboard. It is a mosaic. It's the consistent warmth in her eyes when you share a story, the subtle way she orients her body toward you in a crowded room, the repetition of small, seemingly insignificant questions about your day. These are not isolated data points to be tallied. They are the threads of an emotional narrative you must learn to read holistically. This is precisely where men my age falter, and where your experience gives you a profound advantage. A younger man, anxious for validation, sees a delayed text response and immediately interprets it as a sign of rejection. You, however, have the capacity to understand the importance of timing and emotional coherence. You can sense the critical difference between a silence born of disinterest and a silence born of contemplation. A space she might create just to see if you'll rush to fill it with nervous chatter, or if you have the confidence to simply let the connection breathe. This isn't about her playing games. It's about her subconscious need to know if you possess the emotional intelligence to understand what isn't being explicitly said. A skill forged only through real-world experience. This ability to read the subtle, complete picture, to see the entire mosaic and not just the individual tiles, is the absolute foundation of the entire dynamic we are discussing. It's a form of deep, almost parental recognition that is profoundly soothing to a woman who is constantly navigating the chaotic, validating-seeking world of modern dating. When she feels that you truly see her, beyond the surface-level interactions and flirtations, she experiences a sense of safety and of being profoundly understood that is, in itself, addictive. It is this perceptual skill that will allow you to recognize the power of your calm, because you will see it reflected not in a grand declaration from her, but in the slow, steady way her own nervous system begins to settle in your presence. That is the first true signal. The first pillar of this addiction, and the one you can feel almost immediately, is the intoxicating power of your calm. A woman in her 20s, like myself, lives in a constant state of low-grade chaos. Our social lives are a frantic performance for validation, our careers are a series of uncertain next steps, and the men our age mirror this internal storm. They are a whirlwind of nervous energy, indecision, and performative bravado, constantly checking their phones, seeking approval in our eyes, and vibrating with an insecurity they try to mask with irony. Then she meets you. In a crowded, loud room, you are the center of gravity. You don't fidget. You don't rush your words. Your presence is an anchor, and for a nervous system frayed by the relentless demands of modern life, that stillness is not just attractive, it is a profound biological relief. This calm is not passivity, it is mastery. It is the physical signature of a man who has weathered storms far greater than a delayed text message or an awkward silence. It's visible in the steady, patient way you hold eye contact, a stark contrast to the fleeting, anxious glances of younger men who are afraid to truly see or be seen. It's audible in the unhurried cadence of your speech, the quiet confidence that doesn't need to fill every silence with noise. For a woman used to the frantic energy of men who are still building their own identities from scratch, your settled presence communicates something deeply reassuring, that you are not shaken by the small turbulences of life. This isn't about being boring, it's about being the eye of the storm, a place of profound psychological safety she didn't even know she was craving. But is this calm real? Unconsciously, she will test it. It won't be a dramatic confrontation, but something far more subtle. She might introduce a small disruption, a last-minute change of plans, a challenging opinion that contradicts yours, or a moment of unexpected vulnerability, just to see if your anchor holds. A younger man whose confidence is a fragile construct will become defensive, flustered, or even hostile. He interprets the disruption as a threat to his ego. You, on the other hand, have the capacity to meet it with curiosity instead of panic. You don't just tolerate the disruption, you engage with it, effortlessly demonstrating that your calm isn't a performance. It's a fundamental part of who you are, forged by decades of experience. Passing this silent test is not a minor victory. It is the moment she subconsciously decides you are fundamentally different. Yet this profound sense of calm is merely the entry point. It is what gets a woman to lower her guard and feel safe enough to draw closer. But the force that truly anchors her, the one that begins to feel like a genuine dependency, is the next and more potent layer, the intoxicating power of your certainty. This is the quality that separates the men from the boys more decisively than any other, and it is the one that men your age, when they wield it correctly, use to create an almost unbreakable bond. If your calm is what allows her to exhale, your certainty is what allows her to finally relax her grip, trusting that you are in control, not just of the situation, but of yourself. This certainty has been tragically misunderstood. It is not arrogance, nor is it the need to be right. It is the quiet, unshakable energy of a man who leads, who decides, and who exists with a powerful sense of his own direction. A woman my age is exhausted by the endless, "I don't know, what do you want to do?" that defines her dating life. It is a constant transfer of emotional labor, asking her to be the leader in a dynamic where she secretly craves to be led. Then she encounters you. When you say, "I'll make a reservation for 8 at that Italian place you'll love," instead of, "What are you in the mood for?" you are not just making a plan. You are demonstrating a form of masculine leadership that has become incredibly scarce, and therefore incredibly valuable. This certainty permeates every interaction. It's in the way you order for the table without hesitation, the way you navigate a complex social situation with unflappable grace, or the way you can state a strong opinion without needing her validation or agreement. Every one of these small actions sends a powerful signal. You have a worldview. You have a code. You are not a leaf in the wind, tossed about by the opinions of others or the whims of the moment. For a woman navigating a world that demands she constantly adapt, perform, and people-please, your consistency and decisiveness feel like solid ground beneath her feet. It provides a structure, a framework, a sense of safety that is profoundly pacifying to her deepest anxieties about the future. However, this is where a critical distinction must be made, a nuance that, if missed, can turn this powerful attractor into a repellent. The mistake many men make is confusing this magnetic certainty with control. True certainty provides a strong container for her. It doesn't try to put her in a cage. It's the confidence to lead without needing to dominate, the ability to have a strong frame without bulldozing hers. The moment your decisiveness feels like it's about your ego, about winning, about being right, about diminishing her, the spell is instantly broken. The addiction to your certainty only works when it feels like a gift you are offering her, the gift of not having to worry, not a demonstration of your superiority. And while your calm makes her feel safe and your certainty makes her feel secure, there is a third level to this addiction, one that is deeper, more complex, and far more enduring. This is the part that she can't articulate, even to herself. It's the gravitational pull towards your finished story. This is the element that most men your age completely undervalue, mistakenly believing their past is baggage when, in fact, it is their ultimate treasure. Understanding this final pillar is what separates the men who are merely dated from the men who become unforgettable psychological landmarks in a woman's life, because it speaks to her most primal need for meaning. Think of it this way. A man her own age is a rough draft. His personality is a collection of influences, his future is a question mark, and his identity is in constant, anxious flux. He doesn't know who he is yet, and he's terrified that she'll find out. You, on the other hand, are a finished book. You have a past filled with triumphs and, more importantly, failures. You have stories. You have scars. You have a world that you have built, brick by brick, through your own actions and decisions. She isn't just attracted to you as a person, she is drawn to the entire world you represent, a world with its own rules, its own history, and its own narrative weight. The most compelling chapters in your book are the ones you might be most ashamed of: the business that failed, the first marriage that ended, the investment that went to zero. A younger woman doesn't see these as marks of weakness. She sees them as proof of resilience. Her own life is a series of terrifying unknowns, and she is desperate for evidence that failure is survivable. Your scars are a testament to the fact that you have faced ruin and are still standing. They give your confidence a depth and an authenticity that a 25-year-old's unearned bravado simply cannot match. He talks about the mountains he will climb. Your very presence is proof that you've already survived the valley. This dynamic creates a powerful form of seduction, the allure of mentorship. She watches you navigate the world not as a character reacting to events, but as the author who understands the plot. When she comes to you with her own anxieties, a problem at work, a conflict with a friend, you don't meet her panic with more panic. You meet it with perspective, the calm wisdom of someone who recognizes the pattern because you've lived it before. You're not just offering advice. You are offering a glimpse into a worldview where problems are not catastrophes, but simply plot points in a much larger story. This act of being seen and guided by a wiser, more experienced hand is profoundly addictive. But we must be honest and acknowledge the shadow side of this powerful dynamic. This addiction to your world, to your narrative, carries an inherent risk for her. In her desire to escape the chaos of her own unfinished story, she can easily become a footnote in yours. She might unconsciously begin to adopt your opinions, your tastes, and your lifestyle, slowly losing the thread of her own identity. The very certainty and structure she finds so appealing can become a gilded cage, stunting her own growth. Acknowledging this complexity doesn't weaken the premise. It strengthens it with a layer of truth, showing that this is a real and potent psychological force, with consequences for both of you. So now you see the architecture of the addiction. Your calm is the foundation that creates safety. Your certainty is the framework that builds trust. And your finished narrative is the world she desperately wants to inhabit. Together, these three pillars create a gravitational pull so powerful it can feel involuntary, an emotional home she didn't know she was looking for. But this entire edifice, as strong as it seems, is built on one critical assumption: her belief in your authenticity. And it can all be demolished in an instant by a single catastrophic mistake. A mistake that reveals your calm as a performance, your certainty as a front, and your world as a lie. And it is this mistake we must now turn to. Let's make this tangible. Imagine this scenario. You've planned a perfect evening, a reservation at a specific restaurant you know she'll love. An hour before you're meant to meet, she sends a text. "So sorry, something chaotic just came up at work. I might be running late." A man her age reads this, and his insecurity floods his response. He texts back immediately, a frantic series of questions. "Is everything okay? Do you need help? I can push the reservation, just tell me what's happening." He interprets her message as a test of his interest or a sign of her disinterest, and his desperate need to fix it only adds to her stress. You, however, understand the subtext. You wait 10 minutes. Then you reply, "No problem at all. Handle what you need to. The world can wait. Let me know when you're free." You didn't just respond to a text. You absorbed her chaos without making it your own. You offered a sanctuary, not another problem to solve. That is the power of your calm in action. Now consider a different scene. You are in a quiet conversation, and she reveals a vulnerability. It's not dramatic, just a moment of honesty. "I feel like I'm so far behind everyone I graduated with," she might say, her eyes watching you closely, not for a solution but for your reaction. The 25-year-old scrambles for a platitude. "No, don't say that, you're doing great," he'll insist, a response that invalidates her feeling by refusing to let it exist. He's uncomfortable with the raw emotion. You, however, recognize this moment for what it is: a bid for connection. You hold her gaze, let the silence sit for a beat, and then you access your narrative. "I felt that exact same way when my first business failed. It felt like a public humiliation," you might share. That feeling isn't a sign you're behind. It's a sign you're in the arena. You didn't just comfort her, you reframed her fear through the lens of your own survival, connecting your past to her present. That is the seduction of mentorship. Finally, visualize being out in public, perhaps at a gallery opening or a busy bar, and you encounter friends or colleagues. This is a critical moment of observation for her. A younger man often becomes performative. His voice changes, he tries to project a cool image, and he might even subtly distance himself from her to fit in with his peers. His world is fractured, and his identity shifts with his audience. You, in contrast, remain anchored. Your demeanor doesn't change. You greet your friends with the same relaxed confidence you show her. You introduce her simply, "John, this is Sarah," and maybe place a casual, steadying hand on the small of her back, a gesture that says, "She is with me." You demonstrate that your world is a cohesive whole, and she is a natural part of it, not an accessory you're trying to impress. She isn't just seeing you interact, she is seeing the unshakable foundation of your world and realizing how safe it would be to stand on it. But it is precisely here, in the interpretation of these signals, that a man can make a fatal error of ego. The intoxicating power of this dynamic can lead to a dangerous form of confirmation bias, where you begin to see deep attraction in every polite smile or professional courtesy. You must learn to distinguish between the genuine, consistent patterns of interest we have discussed and the simple, isolated acts of kindness a woman shows to everyone. A single lingering glance in a meeting does not mean she's addicted to your presence. It might just mean she's thinking. The allure of this fantasy is so strong that it can tempt you to build an entire narrative on a foundation of sand. The mature, discerning man understands that one signal is merely noise. A consistent pattern of signals repeated across different contexts is the only thing that even begins to resemble a truth. Furthermore, you must resist the desperate urge to interpret every moment of ambiguity as a covert test or a hidden invitation for you to perform. Her silence is not always a void for you to fill with another demonstration of your certainty. Sometimes it is simply her own space to think, to feel, to be. A younger man, frantic for validation, rushes to fill that silence, instantly revealing his own deep-seated anxiety. The truly magnetic man has the confidence to let that silence exist, to observe it without panic. He understands that context is everything. A touch on your arm during a heartfelt conversation carries a universe of different meaning than the same touch in a crowded, noisy bar. To read the signal without reading the context is to be emotionally illiterate, and it is the fastest way to shatter the very perception of wisdom that makes you so compelling in the first place. So we arrive at the great unspoken sin, the single action that demolishes this entire psychological structure in a heartbeat. It is not dishonesty, nor is it arrogance. The most catastrophic mistake a mature man can make is to seek her validation. The moment you ask, "Did you have a good time?" with that flicker of anxious neediness in your eyes, or when you fish for a compliment after making a decisive plan, the entire illusion shatters. The architect of a world suddenly asks the visitor for the blueprints. In that instant, the addiction is broken. She is no longer in the presence of a destination, but in the presence of another man who needs something from her. The magnetic pull of your calm certainty vanishes, replaced by the quiet, disappointing pity reserved for a god who reveals he is just as insecure as the mortals. So now the veil is lifted. You understand that your true power comes not from chasing youth, but from embodying the very calm, certainty, and narrative depth that have become so rare in the world. You finally see that the one mistake that demolishes it all is the desperate search for her approval, a mistake you will now never make. But knowing the source of this addiction is only half the equation. The critical next step is learning to read the subtle, often unconscious language she uses when she feels this powerful pull. This is why I have prepared a direct continuation of this conversation. In the very next video, which you can see on your screen, we will dissect the 7 unspoken signals she's addicted to your presence. It is the practical field guide to this theory, and your journey isn't complete without it. Click on it now, and let's move from understanding why she's drawn to you to knowing with certainty how she shows it.